Hello. Let's see. It looks like the mic's working. Looks like we've got everything ready to go. Hold on a second. Hey, Hannylicious. Oh, excuse me. Hello. How are you today? What are we building today? Ooh, that's a good question. Well, my thought was to drop the Z-axis for the day and work in 2D. And what I mean by that is build some more complex SVG test cases for my Clojure SVG library. Maybe a little less glamorous, but really quite important to do because, I mean, the essence of a lot of 3D modeling is 2D drawings anyway. So that's the idea. But who knows where the stream takes me. I have a tendency to go on programming tangents. So if I need to work on anything 3D, it'll be, let's see. Test cases are important and glamorous. Oh man, I sure hope so. Yeah, but if I end up tangenting off into 3D design stuff today, it'll be for a little bit of furniture that I have in mind, some modular furniture, but probably I won't get to that today. What I'll be doing instead is trying to figure out what kind of stuff is good to test with my library. Simple as that. I hope that's okay. I mean, you know, it doesn't always look necessarily that fun, but it's I think I'm gonna make it a good stream. So glad you're here. Now, apologies. Have you been on this stream before? I do my best to remember screen names and stuff like that, but sometimes I can't get it. I can't remember them all. I'm just curious what brings you here. It's been quite a while. Okay, so you have been. Okay, cool. Well, good to see you again then. I appreciate you stopping in. That's really nice. So I want to do something here. Oh, that's not what I want to do. So I have this sort of pattern that I do when I'm working on with OpenSCAD. Let's see here. Followed some time ago, just stopping in again. It's nice to see things that aren't what I do normally. Do lots of Python, you love other languages. Ah, gotcha. So have you worked with Clojure at all before, like for personal things or anything like that? I work with Python. No, never. Okay, cool. So do you understand Lisp syntax? I use the word syntax loosely here. Like you're able to follow a little bit. If not at all. Okay. If you ever have questions or need any clarification, you can let me know and I'll do my best to explain it. I'll give you a really quick crash course in the syntax. Oops, just so you can at least kind of parse some of the code that I am writing down here. I'll give you just a real quick example. So if we have a look here, I'll just put it right up here, no big deal. Clojure code is really simple. Everything is inside lists of parentheses. And the most important thing to remember is the first element inside any list is a function. So this here, this list, this S expression is multiply 2 by 2. The power of this is that you can kind of, in the case of multiply, you can pass any number of arguments without having to re-specify the function, right? If this were Python, you would have to do something like, forgive me if my syntax is off, but you'd have to do 2 times 2 times 3 times 6, et cetera, right? Or maybe there's something easier you can do, I'm not sure. Kind of like a lambda or something like that. Not necessarily. Maybe. I'm just trying to. I'm trying to think if that's an accurate way of thinking about it. Let me actually open up a REPL for a second here. Oh, I've ruined everything. So lambdas, do you mean like you can grok enough? Okay. So the single, like the thing that you'll be able to start understanding things is a Python style function from my memory looks a little more like this. Let's say I wanted to add 2 numbers. It would be add, and then you can pass the arguments in, right? 1, 2, etc., right? So this is how you would write it in Python or whatever language. The arguments are a list with commas in it, and the function name is outside of that. But the equivalent in a Clojure or other Lisp language would look like this: add 1, 2. See, the real difference here is the function name is also inside the list. And that's just useful because you can easily nest things like this, right? So now this reads as add 1 and the result of add 1 and 2. So this would simplify to 1, 3, and then that would simplify to 4, right? So that's the real basics of it. But with that rule alone, you can start to understand things a bit. Now that's a little bit. You got it? Okay. That's a little bit unfair of me because they're called special forms that have different variations on the syntax. So you do need to learn a little bit of that if you want to truly understand things. But with that fact, that's at least a really good starting point. I hope that's a little bit useful for you. But now let me build this little watcher script just to set up a workflow. We'll see if I actually enjoy this workflow, but we'll see how it goes. Thanks for the introduction. Hey, glad I could at least give you a starting point. It's a little bit better if you can parse things a little bit. But like I said, if you have questions, I'll do my best to explain it. And if I don't know the answer, I will tell you as much and try to point you in the right direction. I'm not the smartest man alive by any stretch, but I try to explain things when I can, and I try to point people in the right direction when I can't, because that is more helpful than pretending like I know things. Okay, so this here, let's build the watcher, and we'll tangle it into the right spot here. Pardon me. Okay, here I wonder if I have the hawk. I do not. I need to change 2 things here. Spec I need. So what kind of projects are you doing with Python these days? And if you don't feel like answering, you're of course not obliged to. But I'm curious what people are working on. Let's just close that for now. Let's see. All right, things are cluttered here. Let's try not to make things too ridiculous here. How about that? Oh, I do need that window open though. So never mind. I'll keep things as cluttered as I need them to be. Let's open up this dep here. This is the one I need, the Hawk file watcher, just for ease. Doing lots and lots of Django stuff, pretty much where you live. Projects at work that need to be maintained mostly. I gotcha. So I'm a self-taught developer. I didn't go to school for it or anything. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of people that have a similar story. When I started teaching myself stuff, it was with Python, and I remember starting to, find my way trying to do Django stuff, but at the time I didn't, it felt complicated and I didn't understand what I was doing. So I actually never properly learned Django. What I know is that Django is a popular and powerful library for doing Python web apps, I believe, right? And so I can appreciate the value of working in that framework and toolchain, but I was never quite able to do it. Can't really tell you why I thought learning Clojure would actually be easier, but here I am learning Clojure. That's not to say Python's a bad language. I think it's a wonderful language for all kinds of different uses. And in fact, I still have to use it and want to use it for math-related stuff and engineering from time to time. It's powerful because there's a lot of libraries, right? But anyway, that's what I remember about Django. You've got it. You're mostly self-taught. Clojure pretty niche and very tricky. So I would say actually the tricky components of Clojure are when you're totally fresh. One, wrapping your head around the different style of programs, the Lisp style, like I was showing you, parens and where the functions are. But if you're not well versed in other languages anyway, that's actually not a big hurdle. For me, the harder stuff was learning what immutable data structures actually behaved like and how to actually program in that sort of way. So that took me a little while, but it becomes second nature with a little bit of practice. Is Clojure niche? It's fairly niche, but it's got enough popularity that you could find work doing it. You see stuff on Hacker News about Clojure from time to time. So I consider that like just above niche, but that's a personal opinion more than anything. And it being tricky is, I would say the stuff that actually makes it the most tricky is needing to set up your work environment. It's a little bit hard to understand how to start things and why your tools are doing certain things. Hey, Mike, good morning. Morning, afternoon, and evening, all of that combined. How are you doing today, Mike? I was just explaining to Hanny here what I think about the difficult level of Clojure, and my experience was with the most tricky parts being beyond the concepts of functional programming, which you can learn with other languages too. It was definitely the story around tooling and stuff like that. It took me a while to wrap my head around it, but here I am. You gotta sometimes just put your nose to the grindstone and learn that stuff. And I'd say it's worth it. Clojure is a lot of fun to work with. Okay, so let's try to get this watcher for my SVG stuff motoring. So here, I actually don't need this. I need to turn this into svg.main. Refer all is quick and easy. Here, I'm gonna pull in hiccup. Core, please, core, there we go. Refer HTML. So this design watcher is gonna pull in a file to watch. Definitely, if you like functional programming, Clojure's a lot of fun to work with. It forces you to think differently than something like Java, for instance. That was the thing. I had been using Python, and again, this might be an indication of my my simple-mindedness, but there were a lot of libraries I was trying to understand, and they had a ton of object-oriented structure to them, which isn't bad per se, but I always found it really confusing to read and intimidating. I never knew if I was writing code in a good way or not if I didn't put object-oriented, like a class, and then attach all kinds of methods to the class and all that sort of stuff. I had no idea if I was doing things in a smart way or in a really naive way. And the thing that actually attracted me to Clojure the most was the idea that it's mostly functions composed together. Because I can understand functions, because you can look at a function, look at its inputs, look at its code, and look at its outputs, and you can understand that in your head. Sometimes with Python big data or object-oriented structure, I found anyway, when I was trying to learn it, that I had to know the structure from some part of the code up here so that I could learn what the function inside that was actually doing. So the functional, simple nature of Clojure really, really helped me with that. Little industry secret, there's no smart or right way to do things. With Python, people who develop in it love turning methods into one-liners. Really cool to do, but a bit harder to read. Yeah. And the desire to make things one-liners, I totally sympathize with that. I mean, I find myself doing the same in Clojure, and like the next morning I'm like, what did I write? What? So yeah, it's a balance, right? You want concise but still readable code. Can be a challenge sometimes. There's disgusting one-liners out there. People do it for sport, right? Isn't that called code golf? Where your score is you increment your score based on number of characters in your solution. So you want a low score. For fun, that's really, it's a real fun puzzle, right? Your score would be over 9,000. I sure hope people don't do code golf in production. Those programs are terrifying. Some of my favorite ones are like tiny little C programs that just make no sense at all. Like you need, so the code will be this big, and you need a like 2,000 word blog post just to explain how you made it. It's regex. Oh, fair enough. There's also, it's a little different than code golf, but it's what are they called? It's the demo scene, where people do these really, really awesome art pieces in tiny amounts of code that go onto like usually they're GPU rendered and stuff like that, and they make these amazing scenes and stuff like that, and it's really cool. And it's similar to code golf in the sense that often people try to really compact the code. I'm fascinated by that. I think it's something I want to try get into as a little hobby eventually. But my list of things I want to do is ever increasing, so I have to be careful not to commit to too many things. All right, get this watcher going, eh? Let's do that. So I'm going to spit out to, pardon me, tests.html. That should be fine. Nice thing about SVG is you can just rename it to HTML, and if you just then you can just open it nice and easy in a web browser. I mean, you don't need to rename the you don't need to rename it at all. What am I saying? You can open SVG in the browser right away and view it that way. Okay. This file watcher will watch a specific file, which I'm going to write my SVG code into. It's going to read the file, wrap it in vector, load string, so it loads the entire file and evaluates it right away. I don't want to require this. What I would prefer to do, well, actually, first of all, let me see if I don't need that at all. instead of write scad here, I actually want to just parse it with HTML and then spit it out there. So here, main and args design watch, that should actually work for me, hopefully. And we can find out really quick. Let's just do, so we can actually launch this now. If I do svg-clj.watcher, that should spin up. Oh, there's an exception. Well, that's okay. Well, something went wrong there. Let's see where. Let's look at the source here. Oh. No, that's fine. Main CLJC. This isn't tangling into there, and I don't know why that would be. There's a. Seems to be. Well, I'm not sure what's going on. One second. Something's gone wrong and I don't know what. Sorry about this. Sometimes things just stop working and I have to figure out what's going on. That's, oh, here we go. Missing a C. Don't know why that happened. Weird. Very strange. Okay, things should. There it is. There we go. Now we're back. Back in business. All right, let's try that again. Let's run this namespace. I think I always run it with the wrong, I think it's supposed to be a capital M. I always forget. Oh yeah, it tells me right there. Still wrong, okay. Oh right, now I have to actually pass it a proper file to work in. So I'm gonna make whip. This is a whip file for a more complex drawing to be used in tests. This will use all transforms, all shapes, etc. That's the idea. So it might be one, it might be a small collection of SVGs, you know, it could just be a few things. But that's the intent. Clojure, tangle that to /test.clj. CLJC should be fine. And we'll start off with one that's really, hopefully, a softball. SVG of that size, and we'll run a circle of size 200. Okay, so this being in the file test.cljc is the file I want to watch. Then anytime the file changes, it'll try to run the compiler on it and spit it out to test.html. Let's see if I can get this thing working with the file test.cljc. First of all, looks like it is. So let's keep that running in a tab there. Let's also go into SVG CLJ. Oop. Open test.html, please. It didn't actually build it. Right, because it didn't detect a change yet. That makes sense. So let's open that empty HTML file. Oh, yeah. Let's bring it back over there. Oh dear, hopefully. Well, it's all scrunched, but there we go. Please. There we go. That's gonna have to be okay for now. Yeah, that looks okay. Right? I think that's fine. We don't really need to see the terminal behind my face. I mean, arguably you don't really need to see my face either, but you know what? That's not really for you to decide. You can just hold your thumb over that spot if you don't want to see me. Okay, so let's do a really nominal change here. So that should, something's not quite working here. Okay, so we've got errors happening in the watcher. So the watcher is at least doing something when the file changes. So that's a step in the right direction. What's not happening is, it's not working. So obviously that's not quite good enough. It might be, so the reason I had this in my other watcher is because I'm pretty sure the context that this function runs in is not in the same namespace as all of this. So I'll try, see if that, let's see if I'm correct with that. Let's do SVG CLJ main, and let's do hiccup.core. Refer HTML. And I have to restart that watcher, which is easy enough to do. Hopefully we can see something working here. Hey, there we go. All right, so the only thing that's kind of a pain here is I don't have, so the watcher is just spitting a file. It's compiling the source and saving it to HTML. There's nothing currently connecting that file to this window, so I have to manually refresh it. I think I have a tool that might help glue the rest of this junk together for a, for a quick working thing, for a quick kind of working pipeline. I think live server should work. We shall see in just a moment. Hey, there we go. All right. Now, let's try this. Let's change this to 100. Oh yeah. There should be a universal build tool called duct tape. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some kind of, maybe not a build tool, maybe like a node package or NPM, somewhere on NPM there's maybe something. Duct tape fixes everything, but it only ever fixes it temporarily. That's the thing about duct tape, that no one ever talks about duct tape in that way. Let's see if this is working. Ah, man. Okay, so this is a silly little thing, but I'm pretty happy that I actually got that working so quickly. It's pretty nice. That's what you think. Ever seen 100-mile-per-hour duct tape holds planes together? Is that like a brand name or like a type of duct tape? 100-mile-per-hour duct tape? Industrial grade duct tape? I honestly can say I have not seen that. That sounds terrifying and amazing at the same time. All right, let's rearrange this a little bit to... Let's do it this way. The good old thread last macro is one of my favorites for writing graphic related stuff, because you can just kind of, okay, this is the shape I'm starting with, then translate it, then rotate it. All that sort of stuff is really nice for legibility of the code. Now let's add some style to this bad boy. Fill lime green, And stroke hot pink, because that is hideous and making it ugly is funny. Oh, it didn't work? That's weird. Whoop. Oh, it did work. Okay, I missed something here. What's happening? Did I have a different circle diameter before? Did I have 100? Oh, there we go. I'm just being silly with the wrong sizes here. I don't think it's actually been used on planes, but you've read that people use them to repair Hummer doors, so it's got to be pretty good. Oh my goodness. That's a little bit terrifying, but also pretty amazing at the same time, you know? I can only be so shocked that people have tried something like that. Stroke width, 2 pixels seems good to me. Plus Gorilla Tape version's quite strong. That is true. So I've definitely used Gorilla Tape and Gorilla Glue to glue together parts of my projects before. I mean, not because they were breaking, but because I actually wanted to glue them together. It's a powerful glue for sure. It's pretty good. But at that point, it's like, is that actually duct tape? Is it fair to call something duct tape if it's totally different than what duct tape used to be? I say that's cheating. Throwing down the gauntlet on the semantics of tape. Okay, so the thing is, I kind of don't know what I should draw. Oh, look, that's nice. It actually just appends. That's good. Fair point, fair point. I'm just being a jerk for no reason, honestly. You know, semantic arguments are often fruitless arguments. Duct tape is great. I'll agree to that for sure. Trying to think about how do I want to do this? What's a good approach? Well, first of all, maybe I should make the standard window size for these tests just, you know what, 200 is probably good. Like, I have infinite virtual canvas. Why am I being selective with the size of this? Lost in the duck sauce? Right. So at that, sorry, I guess you missed I set up a little bit of context earlier. So this SVG CLJ library, it's getting closer and closer to something that is reasonably feature complete. I added specs to a lot of this, and I've found a few bugs from those specs, and that make me realize that it's still important to define some more holistic tests. So what I'm doing right now is just making a few drawings that will kind of be in the realm of a normal use case and test a lot of the features that I have. Then I just want to make sure that they pass specs and turn that into a test of some kind. The thing I'm sort of struggling with is you can get code that correctly compiles and will even display, but if, for example, let's say I draw a square, but then I rotate the square, and then in the actual SVG visual output, it's skewed it into a rectangle. That is a failure because it is not represented visually like you would expect. So I need to write some comprehensive things that I'm thinking will, first of all, they have to pass, like they have to actually compile, and they have to match certain rules. Then visually, they have to pass human visual inspection, like this circle is still a circle, or this square is still a square after rotating, that sort of thing. So I'm trying to think about how to properly build out that sort of thing. At the very least, I'm going to give myself a set of test shapes and drawings that are useful for just quickly proving that I didn't break all the functions and stuff like that. And who knows, maybe I'll find out that my specs are totally broken. That's a possibility. So I'm just thinking a little bit about how I want to structure the document is really the whole truth of it. That makes sense? I think it should make sense. I don't know if this will work. It does. So the reason that worked is this test CLJC file is being compiled by the watcher with the HTML here. So any valid HTML should also show up in the test. I think if I do this, it should work. Yeah, there we go. So I'm basically just creating an HTML document on the fly. But these are not the things I care about so much as the actual SVG elements. So let's keep on trucking. So one thought I had actually was, let's just get rid of this for now. I don't need that at the moment. Let's do Oh, I need to actually give this function a name, of course. Let's do I want to give a sort of standard set of transforms. Maybe even make some debug functions. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking. Yeah, well, actually, so debug geom. Maybe that's not a smart way to say it, but let's start with that. So we'll pass in some element, and let's build a let here. And what this is going to show is it's going to get center is the centroid of the element, which should work, and bounds is bounds of the element. Then using those things, I should be able to make group the element with another group of the debug stuff, which will be polygon of the bounds and circle circle of size, a radius, I don't know, 2 maybe is fine, and translated to the center from 0. Okay, let's see if that function will actually work for me. So what I want to do is def a, just temporarily, and here I'm gonna do SVG 200 200 1 a. So I should see no change. Let's make sure. I may have broken it. Bummer. That's a shame. What's going on here? I think it might be time to spawn a REPL here. Load this in and also work on it in the REPL so we get code output and visual output. I think that's reasonable. Load file. CLJ. Let's do that should load. Yes, okay. Now let's pop into the proper namespace here and mess around with these definitions. There we go, no namespace SVG. Oh, right, I don't need to do this. I'm forgetting the context that I'm working in. That's just my bad. All right, let's try that. There we go. We got that working. So let's do show debug geom. Didn't work. I'm gonna go to the washroom for a minute. I think I know what's going on, but I'll fix it in just a minute. Be right back. Oop. There we go. Okay. What do I think is wrong? I think the elements are there, but I didn't color them with anything, so I have to actually, you know, give them some fill. Actually, that doesn't make sense. Let's see. Let's sort it out. Also, this is let's try it. Style. Translate. Yes. Fill. Red is, it seems like a debug-ish kind of color. Okay. Okay, so stuff's going wrong. That's fine. I'll have to figure out what actually is happening, or what's actually going wrong. Fill, none, and stroke color is going to be red as well. Stroke width, 3 pixels, sure. Okay, so let's assume that that works. I mean, it definitely doesn't yet, but let's figure it out. Let's see what's going on here. S-valid, groupable. Ah, okay, so here we go. Right away, I'm seeing my specs are not perfect. This groupable spec is the bane of my existence. Let's try to figure that one out. I forget why I did this. I think, you know what, let's do that. Okay, groupable. There we go. Let's also flip these around, eh? There we go. All right, so I just moved my REPL to the left side. I've got my code in the middle here. That's all that's changed. Groupable. Wait, why did that work? I'm a little confused by that. Let's see. Let's sort through this. Oh, here's why. So here, I wrapped in an SVG element, and the SVG element itself is not part of the groupable list. That might be something I have to think about redoing a little bit. Like, I might want to implicitly unwrap SVGs to get the things that are inside of it, so that, there you go, that's working. So that things are maybe a little clearer. I'm not sure about that. But there we go, we've got some debug, which is kind of cool. That's pretty useful for stuff like, if I were to change this to be a group containing this circle as it is, but also a smaller circle of size 2, translated only 10 and 10, but with the same color. Oops. I should also maybe give like a default color during testing. Probably 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Either way, as long as it's consistent, it'll be fine. Though if the standard is to pass an SVG that you then unpack, maybe you should conform to that so your library works like others. Yeah, see, that's the thing. I'm not sure that there is a standard with that sort of thing. Your point's well taken, by the way. I appreciate that. Let's think about that. trying to think of any other really... Actually, no, I have actual reasoning as to why I did it this way. Okay, it's as simple as this. So in Clojure, it's really common to have hiccup data structures. This is an HTML paragraph, right? And if you compile that using the hiccup compiler, it spits out that particular string that'll be just... it'll be just that element. It won't be anything else. So similarly, my thinking was to compile any SVG valid component as just its own thing. So that's using the same logic as the hiccup compiler, which people are used to in Clojure already. So I feel like that's a pretty reasonable way to do it. And then you can just wrap it at the end with an SVG. Or maybe the only place where I should maybe implicitly wrap things for a user is if they happen to pass... Oh, maybe I shouldn't do anything like that, you know? Maybe I won't worry too much about it, because the hiccup compiler doesn't do tons of stuff like that. They have some helper functions that you can use to build proper HTML headers. I could do that. Maybe I'll just have a helper SVG thing. I think that's reasonable. So I feel like that's a good decision. I don't need to worry about it too much. See that? This is satisfying. This is working quite well. I'm happy with that. I mean, as a debug thing, it's pretty neat. So let's do def B is a group of A and A, oop, um, 100, 0. Let's see what this looks like. Let's make this 300, 500, just B. Cool. So here's something that is tricky. A little bit tricky in my opinion. You see this center point here? This is the centroid of the geometric objects, not the centroid of the bounding box of the objects, right? So that can be really unintuitive initially. But the reason I'm doing it that way is because it helps me make rotations of groups more consistent. And by that I mean stuff like this. Let's rotate. I don't need to wrap it, I just need it like that. Hopefully it doesn't break. It did break. Bummer. That's a real bummer. All right, let's figure out why that is. We have an assertion error. So translate seems to work, but rotate doesn't. Or maybe only one works. Still getting the error. Yeah, okay. Did I just use the wrong syntax with rotate like a goose? Well, good thing we're working on this. Okay, let's explain why this is not valid. Wait, what? Sorry, I'm getting a little bit confused here. It looks like my problems are stemming a little bit from this rotate. I have become quite confused with this. Why would that fix it? That's silly of me to check. I don't know where I went wrong with this. I have to figure that out now, obviously. Wonder if I'm making a destructuring error here. Oops. I don't know how to do this. I don't think that that's correct. Yeah, it's not. Okay, so let's do, this doesn't work here, but that's because something's going wrong. I'm getting a keyword instead. So if I rotate a circle, that works. I don't know. At least here, let me start with some of the simpler things. Basics. It throws that exception when you wrap the circle in the G tag. Maybe the code can't handle it being wrapped up. Well, right. So I'm trying to figure out why that is, or I'm trying to remember the changes I made. This stuff was working before, and now I must have changed something and it isn't. So I want to understand what's going on here a little bit. But before I think about that a little more, I am at the very least I want to make a list of super basic shapes that should work as a default. If that makes sense. So I'll start with the most simple setup here, hopefully. We have a circle, we have a rectangle. You know what, let's make it 20, 30. What else we have? An ellipse. 20, 30. No, let's do 30, 20. Ooh, special. What else do we have? Oh, a line. Lines are good. Line, polygon, polyline, rectangle, image, G, and text, and path. Let's do so we got polygon, we've got polygon path. What other shapes are there? Why do I keep forgetting what shapes there are? That's okay. Rectangle we've got, right? Circle, rectangle, ellipse, line, polygon. Oh, we don't have polyline, so may as well use the same. Just for kicks, it's not a big deal. Doom, boom, 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 boom. I'm trying to think, while I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep my mind on why this rotate thing is throwing all these issues. But no solutions popping into my head yet. Text is not great. This is text. There. Let's do Phil Murray. We need a good Bill Murray here. Let's do this. The Life Aquatic, Steve Zissou. One of my favorites. There we go. Let's see. What's the URL width height? Okay, perfect. I don't know the width and height, but I'm pretty sure it'll be in there. 300 by 200. Hey, look at that. Okay. That's the basics. So let's do for element in basics, just wrap it in an SVG without scaling. Oh, wait a minute. Let's do 300 by 300. Seems good. And we'll just push the element through some basic things here. We'll translate it into the center, which translates, I know, should work. And we'll just give it some fun style. Sure, why not, right? Oh, and we want to wrap this whole thing in the debug, which we will do in a minute. Let's do fill. Oops. Pink is nice. Stroke. Width. 2 pixels instead of 3. Stroke. Hot pink, baby. Hot pink. And then, so it's styled, and then I want to show debug geometry, which I don't need to, since it's just a single argument, I actually don't need to put it in parens. Let's see if that'll work. I don't know if it will. The answer is no. That's okay. What's the deal though? Why not? The basics seem to work. That does seem to display. Oh, I think I'm calling bad code here still, so it's failing at some point, right? Is that what's going on? Ooh. And we're getting somewhere. I don't see everything though. Okay. So this actually as a construct seems pretty useful. Because I can, since I have just, once I get the basics working, I could actually just run a bunch of for loops with more and more complicated transformations, so I can test different combinations of transforms on every single shape just nice and quickly. I think that's pretty smart, if I do say so myself. Arguably, it'd be cool. You could do a matrix sort of thing. You could do the shape types this way and the transforms this way. And then you'd need a third dimension to do, well, at least a third dimension to do all of the different valid inputs to each shape's argument. But I don't need to get that far. I think the 2D version is probably sufficient. That's kind of fun. It can be anyway. We shall see. All right, so here, to make this a little more readable vertically, let's do, I should be able to interpose BR tag here just to force everything onto one line, right? Yeah, cool. All right, now I need to figure out what's going wrong with the rest of these. So things work up to a line and then they don't anymore. And why might that be? Ooh, that's weird. Why did that happen? Polygon, image. I'm a little confused here. Let's just shrink this down a little bit too. So I'm confused because I commented one thing out and another one popped into its place. There's text. There's good old Bill Murray. What? Seems like there's a limit to the drawing field you can show on the page. I wonder if that's what it is. I thought that I would have been able to infinitely, well, theoretically infinitely draw things. So let's test that out quickly. So if I do A, oh, is A valid or not? Hello? Again, foiled by my own hubris. Okay, A. Please? Oh, that's weird. I don't know why that didn't refresh, but whatever. Oh, I am doing this wrong. Let's do it this way. BR. Okay. So we're doing it the old-fashioned copy-paste way and seeing. So it doesn't seem like that's the limit. It seems like I'm doing something wrong with the for loop or something like that. I mean, that looks approximately correct. Oh, that's okay. Zoop, zoop. Let's figure this one out. Okay, this one, I can just delete that. It's a little bit unhelpful at this point. Okay. So the basics are a vector, right? For element in basics, do this. What if instead I just did this? I wonder. Okay. So the server, this live server that I'm running is cutting off the code? Okay. It might actually be because I have malformed. I technically don't have an HTML header, so I wonder if the live server is maybe pasting code in there and chopping the file up. It's entirely possible that that's the case. So let's fix that up. I think that's what's happening. It's a bit of a bummer. I don't like having to do that if I'm just making a simple test, but it's important. So here we go. That should be handled, not necessarily here. Actually, it should be. Let's do this, okay? Okay, there we go. That was the problem. Huh. Well, who'd have thunk it? Okay, well, now that I've sorted that particular issue out, related not to the tests, but to my silly tooling, we can keep going. You know what would also be a good idea, I think, is to slap a little style on this HTML or on this SVG element as well. And that, there we go. How do you do that again? Let's inspect this. Element border black. I don't know how to make a border. Why am I... My competence when it comes to this stuff is weirdly low, despite making graphic like a SVG thing. CSS border. I forget all this stuff all the time. Ah well, it's not a big deal. It's a search away, so should be fine. Border style solid. Ah, there we go. So I don't need the color. I can actually just do border style. That should be fine. Although one other thing. Okay, so border and outline are different, apparently. Border changes the layout, but outline does not. Let's go with outline. Border 1 pixel solid blue. Oh, thanks. Just as I don't know how early you typed that. I figured it out on my own here. Thanks for the help though. Much appreciated. Where am I putting that? Oh yeah, here. I'll do it outline. Style is fine. Okay, so this is one of those CSS things where you can either split it into different things on its own, so border color, border width, border style independently, or you could mash it all into one and just have it on as its own thing, I guess, right? Is that the that's the idea there? Let's try it this way. We'll do 1 pixel solid, and blue is fine, although black is fine too. It doesn't really make a difference to me. That's failing because it's not closed, and that's not working. Oh, there we go. The line you posted is the one-line version of declaring border style, border left, right, top, bottom, color, etc. all by themselves. Gotcha. Thanks for the help. I appreciate that. It makes my life a little clearer for the time being. Man, this is ugly, but I mean, you know, in the life of debugging, that's sometimes the way it goes, right? Let's make these a little larger just for better visual. I think that's not a bad idea. Also, can you interpose every other? Would appear not. mean, I could do this. This is going to get weird, but I kind of want to try it just to quickly see here. Okay. This is so unreadable. I love it. Okay. So partition to interpose BR. And then believe you can click on the arrow next to the outline. It'll show the expanded version of everything being set on the one line. Let's have a look at that. I think you're probably right. Oh, perfect. Thank you. That's really a little clearer, actually. That's useful. I like that. Good tip. Pro dev strategies here. I like it. I think this might work as is. Yeah, cool. Oh, that's cool. So if I partition this by 3, it should bump it up to 3 per. Yeah, that's pretty neat. It's a bit of a kludge, but it'll work for what I'm trying to do anyway. I should also just pad this just a little bit. I'm going a little off the rails here, away from what I needed, or from what I wanted. I don't want padding, I want margin, actually. No? Maybe? There we go. That's pretty cool. So fancy. I'm doing like the barest essentials of layout control, and I'm okay with it. In fact, I'm technically doing it all wrong, right? Like, I'm not using the built-in stuff. Hey, there's Phil Murray, really tiny. I'm pretty sure I set this up to be... Oh, that's interesting. So the bounding box treats... Okay. Divided by 3. 200 divided by 3 would be 66 or 67, right? Yeah. So there's a... Oh, I gotta take a call. Hold on for a second. There we go. Whoops. Oh, sorry. Been interrupted a little bit today. I'm doing my best over here, but, you know, sometimes people have to call me, apparently. And that's just okay. One thing I noticed, and I'm not sure why, how dare you have a life outside of streaming? I'm sorry. I mean, it seems like the world is conspiring to make it so that I don't have a life, but I've still managed to hold on to one for now. Oh, I know why this translates not centered, because 150 is not half of 200. That's a classic math goof. There we go. This is starting to look professional, almost. Like I actually know what I'm doing. Don't you think? Let's do the ellipse as 40, 80. A really weird looking ellipse. Perfect. Let's make this line a little more interesting. So the behavior of the line is actually so this is something I'm not necessarily confident is the right choice, but actually no. Do I know what I'm talking about? I do not. Okay, here, let's make a line that should fill the box completely, right? 0, 0 to 200, 200. Okay, never mind. I was thinking incorrectly about how I've implemented the line, but it's good. It is precisely what I would expect. So the line, right? The center of the line is not where I translate the line to. Things like lines, polygons, and polylines, I've set up to be zeroed at the first point that you draw them on. Intuitively, that makes more sense than if it's automatically moved to its own centroid. Whereas these ones automatically center by default. What I don't know is if that's a good or bad design choice. These things are a little unclear in my own head, to be honest, but this is how it's been implemented for a while, and I've used this to make actual drawings and stuff, so it hasn't broken my intuition in any way, so I feel like it's okay. Though I maybe want to have that as like a global var or something like that, like center all or something like that, or maybe have it as an optional keyword argument into the line, polyline, and stuff like that. That might be a better idea. But those are things that probably I'll have a better idea once other people use it and have maybe some feedback or different ideas about how to do it. But that's unclear in my mind at the moment. Optional param sounds like a pretty solid choice. Yeah, you think so? I think that's probably reasonable. It's not, it's nothing. That way I can leave things default to my own opinionated choice, but still have the option completely there for someone who doesn't want to break the intuition of it. I think that's not a bad idea. I think it's a good idea. Okay, so that's a good, helpful thing. Now, you would want it on all of the shapes that you could pass in. So an option to center on the upper left corner or on the first point or center of the object. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It would be, so it would kind of, in my head, it would sort of look like this. It would be, say, circle, you'd pass in your normal argument, and you'd have your optionals here, and it would be something like center, and then there'd be a keyword for or maybe it would be something like align or position, right? And then you could pass it center, or you could pass it what would you call it? Something like corner, something like that. So where the default is the default that I'm used to, and then any user can switch it up if they want to. Something like that is how I'm picturing it. So, or if I want to go one step simpler, you could just do center true false, where false is the default, or pardon me, true is the default. But I'll have to implement that a little later. I mean, at the very least, the thing I'm happy about now is the transforms are working and the shapes actually spit out valid code. Actually, I said the transforms are working. I need to figure out this rotation thing before I can say stuff like that. What would be pretty slick if the default was center on center, for instance, and if you as a user wanted to center from upper left, you could pass in a config when you load the library so that the default is globally set but could be different from yours. That's pretty massive, I would think. Actually, that's not going to be too difficult. I mean, it's not nothing, but that's actually something I could implement. So how would I go about that? Well, so first of all, so there's this thing in Clojure called dynamic Vars. Technically don't need that, nor that. Okay, here. So here, for example, Vars are static by default, but they can be marked as dynamic to allow per thread bindings. So I'd have to look up precisely how I would do it, but it's actually not. I think what you've just outlined is actually a really good idea, and I think I want to do that. So I could make it as simple as something like this, where let's say you've loaded the library in. What you can do is something like def config, right? And then you have your custom config here, and then I'd have a macro that says SVG load config, and then you pass in your own config like this. And if you as a user do not do any of this, if you don't have this, then in the background, automatically some default config is loaded on your behalf, which would be the normal defaults. I think something like that might be a reasonable approach. I'm not sure, because so if you do it that way, you could load your global config and you could still override it normally with the named vars here, or pardon me, with the keyword arguments independently. So that'd be a great quality of life addition for users, in my opinion. Yeah, I think you're totally right. That's noteworthy for sure. So let me make a little note there. Oh, admin. Okay. Let me make sure I'm spelling that right. There we go. Suggests a mechanism for setting up global defaults when a user is has loaded the library. Config would control stuff like all shapes centering behavior. Example, center at centroid, corner, whatever. One more thing on the to-do list. Gonna stop giving suggestions. Feel like you're making more work. Oh no, this is an actual library that I wanna, it's on GitHub and people can look at it already, but I wanna make it powerful enough that people are compelled that, like, oh, okay, instead of just writing my own little minimal thing, this actually seems useful in some capacity. So these are not bad suggestions. Now, to be clear, this one I think is worth implementing soon, but there are other ideas and stuff I've had that aren't necessarily going to be put in there right away because they don't strictly matter for the minimal set of tooling. But this one is a good idea for sure. So the other thing I actually want to control is probably something like whether translate, rotate are baked or not. So this one I won't do right away. This one won't be too hard. This one will be a little more difficult. So by baked, baked is the default and means you technically lose information when compiling to SVG. You cannot tell that a line was translated if the chords have the translate baked in. Anyway, that's another thing. I don't know if that's clear, but by like baked in, I mean if you start a line at 0, 0, 10, 10, and then you translate it 100, 100, the new coordinates will be 100, 100, 110, 110, but it will not have a translate in the SVG. So you lose that information if you don't have the source that generated the SVG. You technically lost that intent, but it's useful to do that because it's way easier to combine transforms that way, because you could just mush it all into a final thing, and I think it's just a cleaner approach actually, but it might be worth it to turn that off so you get a more conventional SVG thing, but I'm not sure about that. For sure, your global config idea is a pretty good one. The thing I want to double check is exactly how other libraries in Clojure would idiomatically implement that. I don't want to build an approach that is atypical so that it would be confusing to people, you know? I want it to be something that people look at and say, oh, this makes sense, perfect, I know how to use it. So I have to figure out the design of it a little bit, but that's okay. Right. I'm pretty sure if I, right, so if I do this in the REPL, doc renders properly, and right, let's try to sneak a little fancy rotate in there, and we'll rotate it by 0. So there's no geometry change, right? That seems to work. Oops, I meant to do this. No, it doesn't work. Okay. There's definitely something wrong when it comes to this rotate scenario. That's okay. I can work with that. Let's just double check that let's do rotate 0, group circle 20. It's a simple test. If this is what's failing in the same way, no, that's failing differently, which is annoying. Oops. If I apply the group to this after, okay, so the group thing is just failing all around, eh? Let me be sneaky for a moment and turn off let's turn off this assertion here in the group here, because I think that actually might fix things up a little bit. Oops, I have to reevaluate that into there. Let's see. Okay, so that worked now. So it's definitely related to, okay, so there's two different problems happening here. One, my validator's not working completely. Two, I think I'm destructuring a little bit incorrectly when it comes to stuff on this side. And this, I think, so there's one issue happening with the group itself, and there's another issue happening with the rotate. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. And I can sanity check that. If this rotate element works, okay, so that doesn't. Okay, so there's a few things going on here. Excuse me. And I'm pretty sure I think I changed the group implementation and it broke a few assumptions. I think that's what's happening. Before I dive into that one, just out of curiosity, I do want to see if turning off this validation cleaned anything up for me at all. Let's check. I'm a little tired today after thinking about this a little bit. Oh man. My brother has been approved for vaccination for COVID. He just got his first shot today. That's exciting. Sorry, that's a total tangent, but that's good news for him. That's exciting. Right. Focus up. Let's change this rotate here. Oops. That's still failing. That's okay. I kind of thought that would happen. Oop. Right, yeah. Do, 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 do. Do, do, Yeah. Nice. Your wife has gotten her first, is due for her second because she's a teacher. Nice. Yeah. I mean, teachers, they totally makes sense. They should be high priority, right? They're right in the thick of all that stuff. That's exciting for her, I'm sure. Due for her second. I think the first and second are like a month apart, right? This is cool. Is actually just looking for a good SVG lib today, especially for one that's pure Clojure and can be used both CLJ and CLJS. Well, I've got some potentially good news and some potentially news for you. One, my library is those things. It's pure Clojure and Clojure script. It should work in either. The slight bad news is I just pushed some changes that have spec involved now, and I'm running into some issues. Now, don't worry. Here is, I don't have the library on Clojures right now. So actually, maybe I should, give or take a month or so for the vaccines. Yeah, that makes sense. That's the same in Canada. I can show you very quickly how I use my library if you're curious to use it. And maybe I should put that on my README. One second, let me open up an example. I know. So here I have this here is the dependency SVG CLJ, and then you use a git SHA. The real fun bit is going to be integrating it with CLJFX. I'm not sure what that library is. Is this the library you're referring to? Yeah, Java FX bindings. Oh, cool. Huh. Well, so I'm proud of the fact that I'm putting my library on GitHub, and I hope you are inclined to poke around and give it a shot. But I'm not yet confident enough to say that this is like you should totally use this in your in your work here. So here, currently a work in progress. Until a stable release is provided, it's considered to be in prototype phase. No need to worry about that now. Well, I appreciate the patience anyway. I'm gonna keep working on this. So there will come a time where it's actually nicely usable. But just for personal projects, gotcha. Cool. So if you happen to go to this at all and you want to pull this down from GitHub, I recommend not using this latest commit, but use the one prior, because I have not added specs to the prior commit. And so you'll get there are bugs, but you won't get annoying assert failures because I don't have that instrumented at all in that one. I have spec instrumentation in the latest push, and maybe that was a rookie mistake. I'm not sure, because it's maybe a little more brittle than I wanted it to be. But yeah, if you're willing to experiment, you go right ahead, and feel free to leave issue reports, bug reports, all kinds of stuff like that. I mean, the more feedback, the better, right? And no pressure on your end to try it either. So. That's that's my pitch, and that's the current status. But it is Wait a minute. How do I... Oh, yeah. Let's see if this project is set up to work. Fig wheel. Dev, please. This should work. So this project that I'm just booting up here, if it works, and it should load into the browser here, is using the version of the library, just one version before the latest commit. And so it's a pattern for quilts, but see here, these are all SVG elements directly from my code base. So you can color everything, you can do all kinds of neat stuff with it. So it works pretty nicely. And since it's basically just emitting hiccup data, you can use normal Clojure stuff to build more complex structures and functions without real problems. Like in other designs, I've got functions that automatically align things horizontally, so I don't have to manually space things out with a translate function. There's all kinds of useful stuff. So that's an example of the library in action. It's pretty useful. Pretty proud of that as a working example so far. It's not bad. Plenty to improve, but certainly doable. Let's just get rid of that for the time being. There's another fun one while I'm derailing myself, which is the norm at this point. Let's I want to show another really cool one. Oops. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. So this was a weekend experiment. Oh, that's really small. So this is a single SVG element. It's a sort of artistic experimental render that I was working on from a 3D object. So what I've done is there's a list of 190 or 189 SVG slices from this particular 3D object. So let's take what's a good example? Let's do 039.svg. Right, so this is the flat slice SVG. What I did was generate 180 something slices. They're a flat SVG like this. I loaded those SVGs into my library. I transformed them to be isometric. So I put them into 3D, translated it, and projected it back onto 2D. Then for each slice, I translated it up and stacked all 180 slices in that isometric view onto one another to build this. So for a little more complicated data manipulation and image manipulation, that's another example of what this library can help you do. Those features are not strictly built into the SVG library, but the SVG library helped me actually generate this final result. And obviously there's way cooler things you can generate from that. This was just a thing I had on hand to try. That was a fun experiment to do as well. So you can, if you're patient enough with the library's development, those are the kinds of things that are possible, which is pretty neat. But enough of that. Let's get back to some of this test building stuff here. I need to figure out two problems. The first is well, what is the first one that I should work on here? Probably the rotate, because I can temporarily fix the grouping problem by just turning off the assert. That's not a real solution, but at least I can get code generating, which is good. So let's transform rotate here. Let's have a look at what's going on. It would appear that the real problem actually lies somewhere in the method oh wait, I put this in its own little subsection. Group rotate, there we go. Somewhere in here there's something going wrong. Wait, what? Why is there that in there? Oh, something's going wrong here. Or here. Boy, it's gonna be it's a bit of a doozy. What, pray tell, is happening? It can't be that. Well, I turned off that condition as well, so that's not part of the problem. So I bet if I try to run translate 00 on, let's say the key happens to be circle like this, so I get the same error, right? So there's a destructuring issue happening for sure in rotate here. Not this one, right here, somewhere in here. Okay, so centroid of points is probably working. The content, so for child in content. So here, I'm gonna guess what happened is, let's do something like this. Let's build a tester just to mess around with this as is. Not sure. So one thing I'd like to improve as I keep developing and improving as a dev in general is better instrumentation for smoother debugging and testing at dev time. Because copying and pasting stuff like this and manually going through it all is probably not the most efficient approach. But I'll make it work for now. So here, I'm almost certain that if I do this, I just want to return XF content, transformed content. For child in content, I just want to return the child. So if I do ASDF on group circle 20, oh, I have to pass in 0 rotation. Nope. Please. There we go. Okay, so the first child is a full circle, so that's actually not where the problem shows up, I guess. Let's have a peek here. Oop. Hey, what? Oh yeah, this is Okay, so there is something going wrong. I'm on the right path at least. That's a good thing. I'm probably gonna give myself, say, 20 minutes, and then I should get going. Hope that's cool with everyone. I mean, you know, it doesn't have to be cool. I'm gonna do it anyway, but running. Right. If I do this, so there's a translate here in the let statement here. Let's go try this one more time. Nil. Oh, because I didn't do anything. Let's pass ch into that, hey? Oop. Not what I meant. There we go. Okay, so this translate is working. We are successfully creating a circle with a transform element inside it there. And what is center? Center should be a 2D point, right? Yep, that makes sense. Centroid of points bounds Oh, no, that I'm worrying about that for nothing. Center is normal. XFM transform should also be fine. It should just be another point as well. Oop, not what I meant to test. Yeah, it's a point. That's good. Now here, there's something going on. Right. So the thing that's happening here is, boy, what a tangled web. Right, so this particular object then gets rotated by degrees. So that should still just be a circle. Yeah. Even if I rotate it, let's say 10. That rotate's showing up there, which is good. Okay. Now this is the translate that fails, I guess. It is. Now why is that? Let's see. XFM is just a point, as I've established earlier. This circle, so let's def A as this mass for a moment, just keep it there. Right, so if I translate 0, 0 of A directly, it should. Okay, so is this is it just a destructuring issue? No, that's not it. Huh. What is happening here? Oh, if I translate element. Okay, so it's something in the translate that's wrong after all. Sorry, I'm going down a rabbit hole here. I was hoping things would start to get clearer with specs, and maybe they're just revealing some fundamental problems I've had anyway. I mean, that's possible. I wonder if I have to do this, if I have to apply translate. Nope. Still no. Still no. If I wrap this in something, will it work at any point? No, it doesn't. Okay. Your XY coordinates are in a list with your elements in the function declaration, right? Sorry, give me a second to unwind my brain back to what you're asking. Your XY coordinates are in a list with your elements in the function declaration. For translate it, you invoke it like this: translate your XY position here, and then you pass some element here, and that produces a circle with the translated components like that. Not thinking in Clojure. Appreciate the effort. So this is boiling down to destructuring issues in my translates and whatnot. So this is totally not the solution, but I want to see for a moment if I do this, if that will fix things or not. I don't think it actually will, but it's the first pass attempt. Got about 10 minutes left. Then I got a motor. This work will continue for me tonight for sure. Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, okay. It's still responding. Not with rotate, of course, but hey, that's fine. What happened to good old Bill? He disappeared. That's weird. Oh well, whatever. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So here, see this? I'm guessing this circle has a nil stuffed in there. And that comes from, what does that come from? I think it might come from either groups or translates. Circle 20. And that, no, if I do translate G circle 20, where did that end up coming from? Thinking. Somewhere along the lines here, walk me through the methods being called. Time to talk it through. Oh, you're gonna make me what's that called? duck debugging or something like that, where you talk to a rubber duck debugging. Give me 1 second to clean this up, and I'll walk you through what's happening. Okay, so I'm getting a problem. If you look at this element that's causing an issue here, this circle element, right? Never heard that term, but you love it. I think I didn't make it up. I'll explain what's happening. Don't worry. There's a Wikipedia article for it. It's official. Rubber duck debugging is a method of debugging code. It's from a book, Pragmatic Programmer. Okay. Carry around a duck and debug their code by talking them to it. The nil is coming from the call to the first function. I'm not sure what you mean by that. So let's see here. So the problem starts to come up when it first arrives here when this element, this circle with the nil in it, is being passed into the rotate element method. Through all of this, there's a few things calculated. The centroid is calculated with a bounds, and that's working fine. It gives you a 2D point, x and y here. It's destructured. Then I'm transforming the content, which in a group element, the content will always be made up of at least one child element or any number of children. So I run it through a for loop that runs for each child in the content. You transform the child by doing a few things. First, you translate the child element to the global centroid here. Then the center is either, if the child element is a group itself, you get this, you calculate the center a certain way. Otherwise, if it's just a normal shape, you just calculate the center with centroid. Then you transform the center point to be rotated around certain degrees. So this is a little confusing, but you're rotating the final center point to a different position. Then, so everything here is just translating the child or calculating positions for the final result. Then here, you transform the child one more time. You translate it to a certain position, and then you do a rotate on the child component. So the certain position you translate it to is the 0, 0 point, basically. Then you rotate the child about the 0, 0, so it's a local rotation only. And then you translate it back again. So it fails at this point here because let's see. Let's run ASDF through this again just for a moment. So ASDF of 10 degrees with circle 20. Whoop. Sorry, gotta... What? Shoot. Oh, I know. I have to wrap this in a group. That's all. Okay, right. So here, up to this point, there's nothing wrong. There's no nil in the circle here. Okay. Then if I run the same function, but I have the rotate in there, there's now, so it successfully rotated the object, but it stuffed a nil in there. And now this is causing a problem. So the rotate successfully works, but it puts a nil in there. And at this point, running a translate will cause that to fail, okay? But if instead, so I can confirm that this is the case because I have A. If I take first of A, this is the exact shape of the component that is failing in the translate. So if I run translate anything through that example, first A, it errors out. But if I modify first of A a little bit, so if I do this, if I do drop last of first of A, right? And then vec that. So effectively all I've done is, so this is the circle with the nil stuffed in there. And this is the same element, but I've removed that nil at the back, okay? So there's no change. If I translate that, it succeeds, okay? So I either need to change translate so that it works just fine with those nils there, which maybe is a solution, but what I should probably do is make sure that rotate doesn't stuff nils willy-nilly into components. See that? So this rotate on a clean object, just put a nil there. So that's where I'm gonna focus my next bit of effort and get rid of that problem. And then at that point, if I'm running into issues, the next thing I'll be able to check is the translate function. So weirdly, I had to, because they're kind of interdependent, you have to, maybe they're way too linked for my own liking, but that's what I have to figure out. I have to figure out why rotate's slapping a nil in there and make sure it doesn't do that. There's a whirlwind tour of explanation, but hopefully that's a starting point. I have to make sure rotate does not return elements with nil content in the at the ends. In fact, it's probably, let's check if, so it's probably not even in rotate, it's probably in the methods. Oops. Yeah, here, see that? So this probably isn't too bad actually to fix. So let's look at circle alone for a moment here. Okay, so rotate element by transform, that's the first thing to look at. This is a more generic thing that I can use for simpler things. And this is why, here, see this? I just am putting content back in there. Although I don't know that that'll fix it, actually. No, that makes no difference because when true, nil, or pardon me, when false, it still returns nil, so that's not what I need. I can make it an if, but I don't love that. I mean, I could do, this is the simplest thing I can think of. But this seems super clunky. But let's try it. See, there's no nil anymore, which is good at least. Oh, let's There we go. That's progress. That's progress for sure. All right. Let me put a note up here. Make sure. I probably. Let's put a little note up here for myself. Eureka! Yes, man, that's another success for the week. That's not bad at all. Let's put a note here. Rotate element by transform sometime, or leaves nil for content. I filtered that out, but I suspect there's a cleaner way to do it. Consider refactor at some point. Let's sanity check though. We're not out of the woods yet, and I can't finish anything else really today, but what I want to do is sneak a little test in here. So this is loading, that's good. Let's try to rotate these. Are we getting success? We are not. Okay, that's fine. Oh, maybe we are getting success. Well, we're clearly not, but why not? Strange. Okay, so let me think about this. Well, let's start with let's pare down this just a little bit more. Let's only run it through take 4 of the basics. It's just not working. Okay, well, one step forward, one step back, right where we left off. But that's okay, because we're slowly improving things. And we're getting there. Kinda. Let's turn off the debug anyway. Oh, weird, but okay. So see that? I am getting rotations now, but okay. Clearly there's a few interactions between grouping and things like that I need to work on, right? But see, because this, so they all rotate, which is okay, so that's satisfying for sure. But there's something about popping in the debug where it goes wrong again. And couldn't tell you why that is. Okay, so that's definitely good progress. I'm happy with that. It's about time for me to get going though. I have to pack up a few things and hit the gym. So that's going to be it for the time being. Same, hitting the gym, Mike. Sounds good. Hope you have a good workout, good run, whatever it is. Oh man, I'm excited about this. It means I can keep working on it a little bit tonight. I'm not stumped. I have something to try out next. That's really good. Oh man, that's solid success on if I do say so myself. Really quite happy with that. And yep, that's going to be it. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I appreciate that. 10 out of 10 progress made. Oh, no doubt. Oh man, no doubt at all. Thanks for forcing me to rubber duck debug that a little bit. A really helpful method, to say the least. Although Twitch chat's not a rubber duck. That's maybe a little mean to call that. But anyway, tomorrow is Wednesday, and I was a little uncertain about whether or not I could stream on Thursday or Friday. Oh, always check out the YouTube channel. There you go. Anyone who's tuned into chat right now, consider giving that a look. It looks like this. Boy, I don't know why that's taking so long to load. This is me. This is my channel. And I just uploaded a new video before this stream, actually. So I do 3D programmatic CAD a little bit. This is me. And feel free to have a look at that. Yeah, Mike, thanks as always for plugging. You're a good help in that regard. Okay, I'll be off. I will not be streaming on Wednesday. And I was a little concerned that maybe Thursday and Friday I couldn't stream, but I can promise you that I'll be back on Thursday again at the same time, at the very least. And Friday seems probable, so we're looking okay for that. So I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I will see you on Thursday. I hope everyone has a good day, evening, time, and I'll see you on Thursday. Goodbye, everyone.